2 years ago when we moved to the farm, we planted a whole bunch of baby fruit trees. I knew that at some point I was going to need to learn about orchard care, and I think it's time. So I've been reading, researching, and decided that we need to gild each of the fruit trees. It feels a little overwhelming to think of gilding the entire orchard, so I decided to do one tree at a time as I'm able. This is my first fruit tree gild. This is a dwarf cherry tree. I have already completed the first steps. Step 1 is to lay down some kind of manure. Since we have rabbit poop on hand, I started with a layer of rabbit poop like this. Next comes a layer of paper, thick layers of newspaper or cardboard. I'm using cardboard like this. And then on top of that you put your dirt, or you can put compost, or you can mix in more composted manure like this. And then on top of that you lay a thick layer of mulch, like wood chips. We are using aged wood chips. Next, I'm going to plant some of my gild plants around this dwarf cherry tree. Tap root, and I'm still not sure what's going on with the root in there, but the plants themselves are doing great. So I've got a bunch of comfrey in my little plant nursery, so I'm putting 2 comfrey plants in here. I had a few extra tomatoes, and I decided to just stick them into my gild. And then this is calendula. My calendula patch is doing great also and continues to reseed itself, so I keep digging up those babies. These are marigolds that I started from seed, and also bee balm that I started from seed. I'm still learning about this, but my understanding is that you want 4 different categories of plants, and some of the plants will have overlap between the categories, but you want at least one plant that will perform each of these 4 functions. You need a living mulch plant, you need accumulators that pull nutrients up from deep down in the soil up to where the tree roots can access those nutrients. You need pollinator plants that attract pollinators, and you need insectary plants that attract beneficial insects. And the idea is that by creating this like biodiversity around your tree, you will reduce the need for human input. In other words, a lot of fruit orchards need to be sprayed, pesticides, herbicides, things like that. And the idea is that using these permaculture principles, nature works to take care of the tree by attracting those beneficial insects that are going to prey on harmful pests and that are going to feed the tree's roots with rich nutrients. And all of this works together to create a healthy ecosystem, especially for this tree and for its fruit. So this is the plan, is to create a fruit tree gild around each of our baby fruit trees. And because of the way that we spaced our young fruit trees in our orchard, I'm thinking that it will over time turn into what they call a food forest, because each of those gilds will grow together and kind of overlap. And we're planting all edibles and herbs and plants that can be useful not only to the fruit tree gild, but also for producing food for us, or herbs, or even medicinal type properties. This one dwarf cherry tree felt really manageable for me because it's here all by itself. You see it when you pull into our driveway, it's very visible. So I thought I would start here, and then I will work my way over to the orchard. All of the other baby trees are over here in this corner of our front yard. We actually had 5 existing mature apple trees when we moved in. One of them wasn't doing well and it pretty much bit the dust, so we cut that down. So we have 4 mature apple trees that need some serious pruning. We have a friend who owns a tree service who's going to come this winter and teach us how to prune these mature apple trees, really cut them back and get them to a healthier place. But then each of these weedy little enclosures contains a baby fruit tree, or a few of them contain berry bushes. We planted some honeyberries and some gummy berries. So my plan is to gild each of these trees. I think this is a peach tree. Their tags are now buried in these weeds, but what I'll do is the same thing I did for the dwarf cherry tree. I'll unwrap the wire fence and knock all that grass down, and then start with those layers. Some kind of manure, a layer of paper or cardboard, rich soil or compost, and then mulch, and then I'll plant. We've got peach trees, plum trees, apple trees, an almond tree, pear trees, and then all of the berries that I mentioned, and the dwarf cherry tree. We also have pawpaw trees in another area of the property, and I'd like to continue to add to those. We have some kiwi vines, and then of course in the back we have a blueberry patch and a raspberry and blackberry row. So little by little we're trying to add a lot of edibles to our property, and they're edibles that take at least several years to start producing, which was why it was important to us to get them in the ground as soon as we moved to the farm. And I knew that over time I'd have to figure out how to prune them, how to take care of them, and so that's what we're doing this year. Okay, my plants are in the ground, and my first fruit tree guild, or at least the beginnings of it, is officially started. Got calendula with my tomato. This is bee balm that I started from seed. Marigolds that I started from seed, and those poor things, they were very root bound because they've been growing for so long waiting for me to get them in the ground. And the comfrey was also pretty root bound, so I removed the bottom layer of roots for both the marigolds and the comfrey and really loosened the roots a little before I planted them. But I think both of them will recover just fine. They're both really hardy. And I'm excited to see how this whole fruit guild thing works.